guys, it's Jamie here from Jamie and his whiskey. I hope you're all doing well. I'm back for another whiskey review today. Now I'm going to be looking at a whiskey that it might not be known to that many people unless you've been in the whiskey game for a bit. I certainly had never heard of it until I came across it online and saw a few reviews, and it caught my eye because it's one of Scotland's oldest distilleries. It's also one of Scotland's most easterly distilleries. In fact, it might be the most easterly distillery there is in the county of the Scottish region of Aberdeenshire. But actually, that's not the reason why it caught my eye. It's probably because of the history and the presentation of the whiskey. And I thought, yeah, give it a go and try it because I'm on this journey and I want to try and find these whiskies which are slightly lesser known. But as I said, I'm probably being very ignorant in the whiskey community. Of course, it's going to be widely known, but to a relative newbie like me, I'm still finding out these things for myself as I go along. So it's none other than the Glen Garioch 12-year-old single malt, and it's bottled at a respectable 48%, and it's matured in bourbon casks and sherry casks. Now the tasting notes suggest that it's going to be a little bit oaky. It also suggests that it has fresh heather and poached pears, amongst other things. We can go into a bit more detail, but I don't want to look at that too much. I want to nose it and taste it and tell you what I think of it personally. So I've poured myself a dram. Here it is. At the moment it doesn't currently have any water in it, okay? But I will add a little bit in a second and tell you what difference I think this makes to the experience. So yeah, the nose, and when I bought this bottle and opened it for the first time, I was pretty excited because of what I'd heard about it and what I'd read. And when I initially nosed it, I was a little bit underwhelmed. But not only that, this whiskey has to be one of the most unique smelling and tasting whiskies I've ever had. In fact, scratch that, it is the most unique. It has a nose which, it's obviously got the sweetness which is there, a slightly stewed or dried fruit sweetness to it. There's some nice spiciness. There's vanilla coming through, but and obviously there's this, I would say apples. I wouldn't say so much pears myself, I would say more apples, like freshly cut apples. And then this really weird note, which is this, I've heard it described as like an earthy note. I also take it as that. I also interpret it as an earthy note. But not only that, it has like it's like leaves as well, like damp leaves, and kind of leathery a little bit. So it's a very unusual nose, and it could be quite off-putting to someone who's not used to this style of whiskey. It's definitely very different. Now tasting it, the mouthfeel initially was a little bit underwhelming for me based on the 48%. It's kind of a bit thin, but then the alcohol at 48% really does kick in. It's got this perfume note to it as well, if that makes sense. You're hit by this initial very condensed sweetness, and then up comes this very almost like a sour slightly cheesy note. Now, I must be alone in this because I haven't seen that many comments that say this, but along with this earth that comes back at the end, you're hit with this very savoury, sour note and earth. Now, I personally, for me, I've tried to embrace this. I've tried to love it because I like unique, interesting, strong tasting experiences. But for me personally, it doesn't quite cut the mustard. I can't love this whiskey like I want to. Now, as it fades away, you're left with a kind of a little bit of saltiness as well. There's that oak ever present. I've heard some people say there's some smoke in this, but to be fair, I don't get any smoke on this, to be fair. And the more you smell it, the nicer it becomes. Now I'm getting more of a, I'm getting a lot more vanilla come through now. And if you take your nose away a little bit into the glass and pull it away, you start to extract some more pleasant, more round, creamy, fruity notes. Yeah, this whiskey is very interesting. I mean, I have to say, the nose does change and evolve. It's a very well made whiskey. However, it's not really for me. It's a kind of a conundrum, this one. It's got so much personality, and my viewpoint on it does change each time I have a glass. I'm still not sure what to make of this. Now, when you add a bit of water to it, now this whiskey can take a bit of water. I must say it's at 48%. So I'm going to put in pretty much a small teaspoonful of water. And what you'll find is that this will bring up the sweetness. It hasn't changed the nose that much for me. Oh yeah, it's starting to now a bit. That's a lot better. It's calmed down those off-putting notes, but well, just when I think that weird funk raises its head again as the development goes on before the finish. It's such a strange flavour. I can't put my finger on it, but it is a cross between that earth, and it's almost dare I say, it's almost a slightly body odour mixed with this sourness. For me, it's quite prominent, and it really kind of dominates this whiskey and takes away the more pleasant aspects of the other things in here, like the vanilla and the nice sort of zesty, orange zesty apple notes, the oak, the spices. I mean, there's a bit of like nutmeg in here as well. It's very complex, and it's very interesting and very unique. So I want to applaud Glen Garioch for making a whiskey with so much personality. I really, really do. But for me, personally, I don't know if I will be buying it again purely on my personal preferences and my palate. It's not one I'd recommend for a beginner. I wouldn't say don't try it. I mean, it's great to get points of reference, but while you're a beginner, you don't know the wood from the trees. You don't know even necessarily what you like yet. So I would give it at least a year or so into your whiskey journey before trying something like this. But I recommend you do, because it's very interesting to get your points of reference and to try something with this much a unique character and personality. So that's what I think of the Glen Garioch. Now, in terms of a score, this one's been so hard for me to dish out, because on one front I want to give it a good score, and on another front I can't give it a particularly high score based on my palate and my preferences. I'm going to be generous, and I'm going to give it an 82 out of 100. because it's not a whiskey that it's not a whiskey that I'm going to be buying again. At least not the 12-year-old. But obviously they do loads of other expressions out there, so I'm going to go back to Glen Garioch at some point and see how I get on with those. But for now, I'm going to leave it at 82. Saying that, I bought this about 2 months ago and I've almost finished it. It's not I've disliked it, it's not that it's undrinkable, it's perfectly drinkable, but I've kind of got to be in the right mood for it, if that makes sense. So there we go, that is the Glen Garioch. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe with your friends. I will be back next week with a whiskey that I absolutely... Actually, I'm not going to say it. Just watch the review. In the meantime, guys, please take care of yourselves and one another, and I will see you then. This is Jamie and his whiskey, signing out. Take care. Bye-bye.